mo kí gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá jákèjádò àgbáláyé a kú dédé àsìkò yìí ẹ̀yin ọmọ aládé Oòduà àgbèwá o kò ní gbé ọ̀dàlẹ̀ lágbára Elédùmarè mo kí yín káàbọ̀ sórí ètò wa ni ẹ gbà yí ẹ̀ wò ẹ bá wa dá sí ẹ̀yin ènìyàn mi fídíò tí mo mú wá lónìí fídíò yìí ńgbà tí mo wò ó inú mi dùn ayọ̀ mi kún fídíò brọ́dà wa bàbá wa Délé Fárótìmí ni bàbá yìí sọ ọ̀rọ̀ débì kan ó sọ̀rọ̀ nípa Yorùbá nation ńgbà tí mo wá rí mo wá dúró mo wá ní ìwọ Olódùmarè ṣé pé ariwo tí à ń pa yìí ó jẹ́ ó ń débi tó yẹ kó dé fídíò yìí mo wá fún yín o mo fẹ́ kẹ́ ẹ jọ̀ọ́ kẹ́ ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ wò ó láti ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ dópin kẹ́ ẹ gbọ́ nǹkan tí bàbá yìí sọ ẹ̀yin ènìyàn mi àwa mọ̀ wípé ní ọdún 2025 yìí orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá máa wá sí ìmúṣẹ nítorí pé ọba àtìjòyè àtàwọn ọ̀tọ̀kùlúùlú Yorùbá nation ń bẹ lọ́wọ́ wọn kàn lè ṣe bí pé wọ́n sọjú nù ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n ń dọ́gbọ́n wò lẹ́ẹ̀kọ̀ọ̀kan pé kíní yìí máa wá sí ìmúṣẹ ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ gbọ́ nǹkan tí brọ́dà wa bàbá wa Délé Fárótìmí tó sọ.
Good morning, everybody. Those who are in earlier on knows that we've done the bit about the morning being good and the year being happy. So we've done that to death already. So let's go straight to the meat of this morning's sermon. Yeah, let's call it that. So good morning. Welcome to service this morning. I chose for myself this morning a topic where I decided that I'll play with your Abrahamic conditioned minds. So I called it Yusuf's coat of many colors. Yusuf's coat. What is Yusuf's coat? Joseph's coat of many colors. You know, the Abrahamic religions have a way of messing with our minds, right? So these guys have a common father and they share common stories. So the same story you'd find in the Quran, you'd find in the Bible, sometimes with slight variations. So the same story that you would find in the Quran of the character known as Yusuf is the same one you'd have found in the Bible where you'd read of him as Joseph. And if you'd go into the Torah, you'd find the Jewish, or should I say the Hebrew version. Sorry, I think Judaism, I don't know what, anyway, whatever the Jews follow, their own Torah has its own version. So at the end of the day, the story of Joseph is known to all of the Abrahamic religions. And one thing that has always baffled me I tried reflecting what I'm preaching today. Yeah, Joseph's coat of many colors. What does it mean? What's the meaning of Joseph's coat? What does it mean? In Hebrew tradition, it's called Ketonet Pashim. Don't worry, I don't speak Hebrew, nothing like that. I had to check the internet, see? It's a huge library on Google. So I knew that there must be a name that the native would call something like that, and I found that. It's called Ketonet Pashim. Simply is the coat worn by the favored one in the clan. And so when Joseph's father got him that coat, it was to signify that he was favored. He was perhaps the future leader of the clan, the spoiled brat in the eyes of his siblings. So he had a coat of many colors. But then, what does Joseph's coat speak to within the context of the country known as Nigeria? I would like to say that it speaks to our diversity. The vast diversities of the country we've been blessed or cursed with. The one thing you cannot escape, whether you are a Biafran activist or an Odua Republican or one just another disgruntled Nigerian, the reality of our situation is that we're all trapped together as Nigerians. We are the victims or inheritors of Nigeria. What Nigeria becomes is entirely in our hands. It really cannot be said to be in the hands of persons who are benefiting from the ruination of our country. I know you find this a little difficult to understand sometimes. And I must be sincere enough to admit to the fact that it has taken me nigh on 40 years to come to the point of understanding of the fact that we can actually truly become. We can become each and everything that we dare to believe that we can be because we have strength in our diversity, potential strength. Don't let me get ahead of myself. Ordinarily, diversity experts will tell you that even in gene pools, you are better served when you have multiplicity of genes available within the gene pool. It only strengthens the species. Nigeria is a country of vast diversities, eco and human diversities. We have everything in this space called Nigeria. We have entrepreneurial thinkers, we have reflexive farmers, we have industrious laborers, imaginative thinkers. We have it all. We have the land. There are some plants that we eat that can actually be grown all year round in our lands without irrigation. We're possessed of the human resource to be the best at everything and anything that we care to be. We have the capacity to become a first world nation within 2 to 3 generations. Each and every one of the things that we might deem to be problems in our country can actually be viewed as opportunities. I believe is now let's be careful. I don't do Cantonese either, but I was once told that the same Chinese character that denotes danger also says opportunity. So I've always looked at our challenges. When I say always, please, I have my past as a skeptic. I have my doubts even in these days. But when I say always, I'm speaking in terms and very broad terms. You can look to our challenges as opportunities. We don't have roads. It's an opportunity to build roads. It's an opportunity to train more civil engineers through technical schools to build the kind of roads that we are capable of building using our natural resources. It's an opportunity to train engineers in metallurgy because we have the iron deposits. We've got bitumen. So we have a lot of problems, but these are challenges that could become opportunities because of the vast diversity of our country. It means that we have if you look, for instance, to the way the Nobel Prize, particularly in the sciences, end up being given, you find that there will be scientists working in different countries on different aspects of a scientific breakthrough. And by the time the Nobel Prize will be handed out, you'd find that people worked across cultures, across languages to make this breakthrough. So the diversity of persons, skills, skill sets, knowledge, the synergy formed when these different skill sets were brought together was sufficient to make the kind of breakthrough that only one person couldn't have made. So there is a lot of strength in our diversity. You can only talk in terms of inclusiveness, however, because inclusiveness is necessary in the creation of peaceful synergies and diversity. Because when you look all around our country today, you'd find that what should be our strength has proven to be our undoing as a collective. How does anybody feel included when you are not living with a sense of justice? How can you feel included when you don't have peace in your environment? How can you have either peace or inclusiveness when your land is not ruled by law, when it is ruled by the impunity, the whims and caprices of mortals, when you don't have predictability as to what the law might be said to be, when the police, the one who is meant to uphold the law, is not subject to law, when those who should be citizens are in reality serfs and slaves, or at best subjects. So, what have we done with our coats of many colors? We have failed to find common purpose. We have failed to look to our shared values. We've had no willingness to trust each other. And you can't just build peace by demanding it. You have to stop focusing on the divisions. We have to focus on our commonalities. Let me speak to this coat of many colors. I look to the Nigerian diaspora. By diaspora, I'm speaking to those who have been born offshore. I see a Saka playing on the right wing for England. I see an Alaba David playing for Austria. I see the host of Nigerians giving their best to other countries. And I am reminded of the Mad King, the one who had a bejeweled crown. And each time that he was vexed, he'd pull out one of the emeralds, he'd throw it and use it to stone whoever he was pleased with. He kept doing this until the crown was left without any jewels. That is the irony of the Nigerian state. Instead of building a refuge that welcomes each and every one of our race, we're tearing apart our coats of many colors in the error that we might get better coats when we should focus on what binds us. I will explain myself. This morning, a gentleman came to one of my social media platforms, and he said, "Why don't you focus on building Yoruba land?" Yet another said, "Why don't you let Biafra be?" And I felt sorry for all of us. I felt sorry for all of us because we're making certain fundamental errors that are critical if we may be able to walk away peacefully from the mess that we have managed to create. And here is the error that we're making. The peaceful way to any one of these utopian republic where you believe that the evils of Nigeria will not follow would be for you to first become citizens. The fundamental problem of the Nigerian is that he is not a citizen. I know you have difficulties understanding this, but let me just break it down for you. For you to be a citizen in any land, you must be ruled by law. Both you, the citizen, and those who govern that space must be bound by law. There are no perfect states. Even America, which is the ideal place to which most of you have either fled or are hoping to flee, is not 100% ruled by law. That's why you have the Snowden papers and everything. But to a reasonable extent, a country is known by the way it treats its weakest and defenseless. I've been in prison. I know what I saw. It's not the time to speak to it, and I will not speak to it today. But I assure you that the Nigerian state does not have space for citizens. And for as long as we do not become citizens, you cannot have a peaceful path out of Nigeria. And that is the point of disagreement that we must come. If you are Democrats, this is the time when the same strength by which you require your Republican utopians, use it to demand to become citizens in the country known as Nigeria. This is where we've all been trapped. That's our coat of many colors. We may decide that we would rather sew tunics with the material. That's where we are today. And that coat of many colors, the Mad King's crown with many stones of different colors, they are merely parables for our country, Nigeria. I do not desire to see anybody bleed before we may change our trajectory. There was a time I would say that I do not write for you. I realized how idiotic I was with that assertion. And I'll speak to that some other day, because if I wasn't writing for you, if I wasn't speaking to you, I'll still be in prison in this moment. We have awakened. Now when you wake up, now in the day break up. Good morning in a new Nigeria is what we need to be saying to ourselves. Because what is going to happen going forward is that we're going to have to start building bridges into the future that we imagine. We cannot, hear me and hear me clearly, we cannot leave this coat of many colors that is bursting at the seam because of all the evils that have been done to it, the divisions which are tears in the fabric. We cannot leave it to a future generation to deal with. It's on us to deal with it. And we can do this peacefully. Nigeria pretends to be a democracy. It pretends to be a country governed by law. We, as a collective, we must act as citizens, even though we know we're not. We act with what we know, and we act in the knowledge that our coat of many colors must not be torn asunder. That is what our enemies would prefer. Tearing Nigeria apart favors only the enemies of Nigeria. And the enemies of Nigeria are not necessarily offshore. Each and every person who benefits from the ruination of Nigeria is an enemy of Nigerians. You don't need to travel too far to see them. But you're the ones without the guns, and you're the ones who must eschew violence. The only way you do that successfully is the way you did it when I was in detention. Oh, sorry. My wife loves me saying detention, but the reality is I was in prison. But you found your voice. You finding your voices collectively as one was what moved me to tears. I never thought I would live to see the moment. Usually, they distract us. They use religion. They use ethnicity. They use politics, partisanship. Some people think it's fine that I went through what I went through simply because they disagree with my political views and choices. It doesn't change the fact that I am the same as you, part of that fabric. That's the diversity. We mustn't all agree. We can't all agree. We can't have the same opinions. But we're part of the same tapestry. We're part of the same cloth, and we mustn't tear it apart. Yes, I would love to tear apart the iniquitous Nigeria that has held all of us hostage, but I don't want to tear my country apart. I want to tear down the evil system that permits the evil that has overtaken our country. I don't want to tear the fabric apart. No, it's the system. I have no fight against persons. We have this only one cloth. What's the point of tearing apart our coat of many colors? So here is the thing. We have the path laid out before us, and we must be clear as to what the future holds. The future must hold a Nigeria that is accountable to law, both by persons and by institutions of state. There must be the rule of law in Nigeria. First. Second thing, if we are truly citizens, our votes must count. If you recall, on December 3rd, the day I was picked, is that the 3rd or 4th? Yeah, 4th. I was to lead a boycott, peaceful sit at home in relation to electoral reforms. I had a very small lectern in front of me when I was speaking with you about electoral reforms. Small lectern. It has pleased God and the powers that be to build me a stage and to buy me loudspeakers, microphones. When I was speaking with you long before we started this journey with impunity, there'd probably be 100 or at most 200 of you when we're having these broadcasts. I'm seeing 975 of you right now, thanks to those who decided to build me a billboard and build me a megaphone. That megaphone was never intended for my personal use. My life was dedicated long ago to the birth of a Nigerian state and a Nigerian nation. It wouldn't be built on the back of anybody's blood. It will be built on the back of our common purpose and our common will. We are more than them. We are by far more than them. This they know, and this is why they are always dividing you. This is why they're always telling you about how the person in power is from one tribe, and the person in power will do everything to reinforce that illusion to you. But those who own effective franchises over the different ethnic nationalities are never marginalized in these power games. In the Buhari years, it was always about the Fulani. The Fulanis were the demons, they were the devils. And I'm not suggesting that we don't have a lot of demonic persons who lay claim to Fulani heritage and who act in the name of the Fulanis, who did a lot of evils before and during Buhari's time and even now. I am not suggesting that when they tell you it's all about the Igbos, you wouldn't find a lot of persons who would act in the name of Ndi and do a lot of things that even the average Igbo man would consider shameful. Today, Bulaba is sat in office. Every evil is said to be because he's Yoruba, even though he had rarely ever at any point before his quest for the presidency identified with anything Yoruba. But all of a sudden, he's Yoruba, and that's why you justify your hatred for the Yoruba man. And yes, he reinforces it, just like Buhari reinforced it in his time. Each and every one of the cronies by which he has surrounded himself are persons of Yoruba heritage, and the unthinking Yoruba Ronu bigot is busy applauding the evil. So those of you who will be divided on account of ethnicity, you have validation for the hatred. But here is the thing. In the years of the Bulaba, exactly what has happened to all the monkeys that have governed the land of the Igbos, the ones that were governing in the name of the Fulani. The reality is that it is the poor who suffers the brunt of the evil that these people do as a class. So it's a class thing. It's got nothing to do with ethnicity. But just as they found common purpose in destroying the country, you have to find common purpose in becoming citizens. Because what ails you as Mustafa ails Amechi. The same thing is disturbing Olakunle. Nodu is afflicted by the same. The point I am making to all of you is simple. What combines together is the fabric. It's got a coat of many colors, yes, but it becomes a coat only because the fabric was stitched together. It wasn't batik. It's not batik. It's not tie and dye. It's a patchwork of different colors. You have diversity, but it only becomes strength when you find common purpose, when you're all pulling in the same direction. The Nigerian in the northern part of Nigeria must want the rule of law. The Nigerian in the southern part of Nigeria must want the rule of law. It must not be that you want something for yourself that you do not want for the other. When you've now all come together and become citizens, ruled and governed by law, you may then go back to what used to happen in this country before independence and in the immediate aftermath of the independence, where you, as a collective, get to decide what happens to you and what happens to your country. And before they make it seem like something esoteric and unachievable, let me remind you, before Nigeria there was a referendum. Part of Nigeria decided it wanted nothing to do with Nigeria, and it left, became part of Cameroon. In the immediate aftermath of our independence, in 1961 leading into 1962, there was a referendum where a part of the Western region decided that it wanted its own region, and that was what became the Midwest. It was done via a referendum held in that part that was to constitute the Midwest region. That referendum passed. A motion passed in the Western Region Assembly. A motion was taken before the Federal House of Representatives, and at the end of the day, the will of the people prevailed, and the Midwestern region was founded out of the Western region. That was why, as at the time of the first military coup in 1966, Nigeria had 4 regions, not the 3 with which it started. It had 4. The will of the people prevailed, but that was the last time the Nigerians spoke. Every fraud that has presented itself as a constitution in Nigeria since 1966 have been the impositions of military fiat. It has never been reflective of the will of the Nigerian people. So when they say, we, the Nigerian, who are the we? Who are the we? In 1979, a constitution was foisted on Nigeria by military fiat by Obasanjo. That constitution was not reflective of the recommendations of the 1977 Constituent Assembly. So I say it without any apology. That constitution does not flow from the will of the Nigerian. It flows from the egos and will of Obasanjo and his co-travelers and whoever were their influencers. That's one. The 1999 Constitution flows from the 1979 era. The 1979 era lasted 4 years. The 1999 era has lasted all of 26 years so far, almost 26 years. But the effect on the Nigerian people cannot be any more glaring than it is today. So yes, those who benefit from that error is about the best I can say for that fraud. But what you find today is that the Nigerian has been effectively enslaved But to validate his enslavement, he has been given the capacity to hate. So instead of focusing on the commonalities between himself and the person he's hating on, part of the same fabric, busy tearing it apart instead of joining it together. You found your voice, or shall I say voices, instead of singing in discordant tune as we are wont to. Today, we found our voices in relation to one, but it cannot be only about me, and it can never be about me, should never be. It's got to be about us, all of us. Even the ones you don't agree with, you've got to find common purpose with them. They're suffering as much as you under this evil regime. It's not personal. If Tinubu is not the governor or president today, if he becomes Shetima or anyone else for that matter, if they have to operate this evil system, the same evil will continue ad nauseum. So you've got to look beyond the persons operating the system. Look to the system being operated by men. That is what we need to focus on. Find the commonalities. Stop tearing apart our coats of many colors. Stop tearing it apart. We are only helping our enemies when you do that. It does not serve our purpose to tear ourselves apart. It is a time to unite behind common purposes. Stop tearing our coat apart. Yusuf's coat is Joseph's coat, is Jacob's coat. They might be tearing theirs apart. But we should have the grace to understand that there is only strength in diversity when we find synergies based on common purposes. The Yorubas will say, as I'm wont to say, Oporo, Kokagbon, Aboro, Lanso Fomoluabi, Tobadine, Adodidi. A word is enough for the wise. Thank you for spending your time with me this morning. It's been a pleasure to be back speaking with you. See, Magic Straight has nothing to worry about. I'm not going to speak to the case before the court, but we can still speak to ourselves, right? Good. So I will see you all next week. And yeah, have you a blessed year ahead. But what you make of the year is what becomes of it. There is nothing we can't achieve when we tighten the fabric. See you next week. Enjoy yourself. Bye-bye.
Mo jẹ́ ẹ̀jẹ́ fún orílẹ̀-èdè mi ilẹ̀ Odùduwà tó ń ṣàn fún wàrà àti fún oyin, ilẹ̀ tó kún fún àwọn akọni ọgbọ́n ètò àti òye. Mo ṣe ìlérí gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọmọ ológo ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀, ìtànṣán oòrùn láti la ayé já nílẹ̀ Áfíríkà, láti gbé ilẹ̀ Odùduwà lárugẹ. Mo pinnu láti fìmọ̀ ṣọ̀kan fún ìlọsíwájú ìran Yorùbá. Mo fọwọ́ sọ̀yà pé n kò ní dalẹ̀ tàbí ṣọ̀tẹ̀ sí ìṣọ̀kan àti ìtẹ̀síwájú orílẹ̀-èdè mi ilẹ̀ Odùduwà. Èmi yóò fi gbogbo ipá, ọkàn, iṣẹ́, ọgbọ́n àti ìṣe mi sin orílẹ̀-èdè mi ní òtítọ́ àti lódodo títí ọjọ́ ayé mi. Gbogbo ìyànjú àwọn akọni tó ti lọ kò ní já sófo láti ọwọ́ mi títí dé ìrandíran tí ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn. Mo ṣe ìlérí pé ẹ̀sìn tàbí ìṣèlú kò ní yà wá nílẹ̀ Odùduwà. Tó bá wáyé bẹ́ẹ̀, mo lè lo ọ̀kọ̀ ẹ̀jẹ̀ tó kù sára mi láti fi ṣègbè àti jàjàgbara fún orílẹ̀-èdè mi. Ilẹ̀ Odùduwà, ìran Yorùbá, èdè kan, àṣà kan àti ìṣe kan ló so wá pọ̀ láéláé lágbára Elédùwà.